Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Healy Community Q&A webinar. I'm going to leave this slide up for a bit because we're waiting for people to come in from the waiting room. And while you're waiting or as you're entering, you'll notice that there's a QR code to sign up for the ALS link. So if you haven't signed up for that already, that's our emailed broadcast system that announces these webinars and the topic for these webinars. So if you wanted to get email notifications to never miss a thing, that's a great way to stay in the know. Um, and then as the numbers are kind of stabilizing here, it looks like a lot of people have joined. So we can move to the next slide and I'll introduce what we're here to talk about today. So this is our first community webinar of the new year. So welcome to those who have been following us in years gone by. Welcome to 2026. You're still stuck with us and we're happy to be here. Judi Carey is our research access nurse at the HEALEY and AMG Center at Mass General. And I'm the patient navigator for the HEALEY Platform Trial, also based in Boston at the HEALEY Center at Mass General. And so Judi and I are going to be tag teaming the discussion today to talk about just those things. So talking about research access, talking about patient navigation, and what to expect as there's new trials coming down the pipeline here in 2026. So I'll let Judi start things off with a discussion about her repertoire of knowledge, and then we'll get into kind of the meat and potatoes of what I know about the platform trial so far. And so with that, we can head to the next slide, and I'll let you take it from there, Judi.
Thank you, Catherine. It's so nice to be here with you this evening. So some of the things that I share when I have my general research talks with patients are just resources for where they can look for trials. I talk about the trials that are enrolling at Mass General, and I also share if I know these same trials are enrolling at other centers. But it's also good to find some of your own favorite resources for looking for trials. ALS TDI Trial Navigator, clinicaltrials.gov. I do believe all the information generates from clinicaltrials.gov, but you might like different formats or being able to have things that are searchable, like you're looking for phase 2s or phase 3s, trials that are enrolling right now. So on all of these resources, you can find ways to look for drug trials that are enrolling and observational studies and expanded access as well. If you need some extra help, you can reach out to Niels, to the clinical trial liaison, and they can send you a list of trials that are enrolling in with specifics for what you're looking for. Next slide, please. So this is a great resource from Les Turner, available in both Spanish and English, and it really helps walk you through thinking about whether research is right for you. So that's the first step, really. You want to think about if it's right for you. So this is a great resource to not only answer that question, but also help you decide if you're interested in observational studies or EAPs or even donating of tissue. So this is a very good resource that I suggest you start with this first before you start looking for trials. Next slide, please. And this is an overall wonderful resource, not just for research, although that is the section that we're highlighting for you, but it's really an ABCs of ALS. And it also shares with you all of the important information about the different types of research available to you, as well as off labels as an alternative. Next slide, please. If you're a veteran, this is an incredible resource, again, that provides you with all of the information you need to know about living with ALS, as well as information for finding research. And they actually have the same list that we shared on the first slide. So they also share with you clinicaltrials.gov, I am ALS, ALS TDI Trial Navigator. So we share all the same resources, and it's really up to you to think about which ones work for you. So this is a wonderful resource for the veterans. Next slide, please. So this is something when I have my research talks with people, I do individual, myself and Michelle Redens at the Healy Center, we have individual research talks with people. And so these are some of the things that people bring up when I'm in conversation with them. And it is true, you do not have to be a patient, at least at our center, um, to to participate in a trial at a center. You don't have to be a patient at that center. You would want to ask that when you reach out to centers for research, if you also have to be a clinical patient of theirs. If you do, here's a way to look for ALS specialists and research centers and centers that do both. So you can go to NEALS and find some organizations that participate both in research and also provide clinical care. And then I just took a look at this geospatial hub clinic locator, and it is a beautiful piece of work, I have to say. And in a nutshell, it's a group of mappers who have come together to develop maps and apps for people living with ALS. And what they've done is they've helped identify where ALS clinics are located across the country, and it's really worth visiting to take a look at that as a resource. For international folks, there's a lot to consider when you're thinking about participating in a trial in the US. First of all, we have to know from the study sponsor if international participation is allowed. And then there's just a lot of personal things that you have to think about when thinking about moving to another country or flying back and forth to participate in a trial for long periods of time. So we included resources for looking for trials, maybe closer to home, with these three different resources that are listed here. The next slide, please. So now we're bringing it back home to the Healy Center. These are not all the trials that are enrolling right now, but they are trials that are listed on our website. You can visit our website by using that QR code or the link. But these are some of the drug trials. The Healy platform, Healy My Match is upcoming with a new drug in the coming months. And Koya and Usnoflast, we do standalone trials as well as trial programs at the Healy Center. So Koya and Usnoflast are examples of standalone trials. And we also do lots of biomarker and observational studies. I think we have something for everybody who wants to get involved in research. So it's a great page. We just updated it too. So if you want, we don't always have the time to do that, unfortunately, but it was just updated a few days ago. So you can see what trials we have. And next slide, please. And I'm going to hand it back to Catherine.
Thanks, Judy. That was good timing. I just finished putting another link in the chat. I will note, so I'm throwing a lot of links in the chat, but these slides are posted on our website after the fact, and you can email me if there's any links that you miss as we're talking through this today. But so Judy knows everything about everything. I know a little bit about a specific trial, or I guess a lot about a specific trial. So my role is focused on helping people navigate the HEALEY ALS Platform Trial. So we launched this trial well, people before my time started on this trial, it was designed to speed up the system for finding answers and testing drugs in ALS. And it's been very successful in its design. So we launched with 3 regimens in July of 2020. This graphic shows, those bars off to the side on the timeline are just showing from the time we started enrolling in that regimen to the time the top line results were announced. So the top line results meaning, that primary analysis of, is this drug showing some signal of efficacy to move forward, or is this drug showing that it's not, having a clinical benefit? So that's what that graphic is showing. And really, my point in sharing this is just to visualize how much we've accomplished in a few years here. So whereas for one drug, we've been operating for just over 5 years at this point, and we've had answers to all of these drugs that you see on the screen here. And now we're starting up a new regimen. So NUZ001, manufactured by Horizon Therapeutics. We're officially about to hit the ground running, starting that new regimen. And so that's what I'm talking about here today. So what to expect as we start to prepare for enrolling in a new regimen. Next slide. So the platform trial, as I said, it's been going on for a few years, and it only takes a few years to learn from the activities that you're doing in research. And so we're learning and adapting and trying to make changes for the better to make this trial more powerful for science, but also make it more patient-friendly and patient-centric. And so compared to July 2020, when we first started, we've made some changes. And so we're trying to increase the power of this trial, streamline operations, add more patient-centric features. And what that looks like is that the study duration now, at least for the randomized controlled period, so that being the period where there's the potential to be on placebo. So that randomized controlled trial with the placebo period is about 9 months now, or 36 weeks. It's still going to be followed by what's called the active treatment extension. During active treatment extension, there is no placebo. So everyone who completes that placebo-controlled trial that lasts 36 weeks then automatically rolls into the active treatment extension, where they know and their study team knows that they're receiving the actual study drug for their regimen. In terms of the inclusion criteria, there is a change here where the symptom onset, so specifically looking at the onset of weakness symptoms due to ALS. I know sometimes people notice fasciculations as their first symptom, but we're specifically looking at weakness onset. So that time point, we're looking to enroll people who are within 2 years of that onset. So, you could be at 24 months or within 24 months at the time of screening into this trial. The visit schedule, so, the actual study activities, going to a research center, those phone call follow-ups, the schedule has been adjusted to be, a bit more patient-friendly in terms of the logistics of participating. So there's increased remote visits to make it a little bit easier on participants and their families. And then biomarkers as well. So one of the powerful things about the platform trial is that it's not just finding an answer for the study drug that we're testing, it's bolstering our knowledge about ALS as a disease and the potential therapeutic targets. So biomarkers are a really helpful part of this research engine that not only inform our decisions about whether the drug we're testing is helpful, but informing decisions about, are these biomarkers something that could be used to track disease progression and make better predictions about, future therapeutic targets and things like that. So we've also developed some more fine-tuning with the biomarkers we look at in the trial. And so for the regimen that I'm about to talk about, these are the things to keep in mind, that there have been some changes since we first launched the trial, and those are the ones to highlight. And so we can move to the next slide. And those who have been on these webinars for a while know that we partner with lots and lots of sites throughout the United States. All of these centers are part of the NEALS consortium. So NEALS used to be the Northeast ALS Consortium. Their name has changed to the Network of Excellence for ALS. It is the same great team of people, the same great research sites, just a slightly different logo and new name, but we are still working with over 70 platform trial sites. So the most recent two regimens, regimen F and G, we had 73 or 74 sites that were all enrolling participants for that trial. And so as we prepare to launch this next regimen, regimen I, those same sites to get as many sites as possible activated to enroll participants for this upcoming regimen. And so on our website, we have an interactive site map where you can see the different locations we've worked with through the years. And then importantly, I'll get into this more on another slide, but we show the status of those sites. So some sites might be active but not enrolling, whereas other sites, in the coming months, will note that they are active and looking for participants. So I'll show you where on the website to look for that. You can go to the next slide. And this is what that webpage looks like. So there's a table on our website that I'll be updating over the next weeks and months to show the enrollment status. So sites will be changed from what you see here. When they're ready to start enrolling and recruiting participants, we'll put them in bold and we'll change their enrollment status to say active recruiting. And that's when you'll know that that site is, looking to enroll participants in the trial. Not all of our platform trial sites that we've worked with in the past will work with us for all future regimens. So it's important to kind of keep in mind that even if you see a site in your area, they might not quite be ready to start enrolling. It could be a couple weeks, or it might be that they're not able to participate in this regimen. So I did want to point out that this is a good resource to see which sites are actually looking for participants. And then next slide. Some things to keep in mind too. So as you're looking at different trial opportunities, Judi was talking about other clinical trials that are coming down the pipeline. It's not just the HEALEY ALS Platform Trial that will be enrolling in 2026. And so as you're looking at different trials, it's important to look at the criteria. I will say a lot of clinical trials, especially drug trials in ALS, have pretty similar inclusion and exclusion criteria. But specifically talking about the HEALEY ALS Platform Trial here, the key things to keep in mind are that participants in this trial have to be at least 18 years of age, have to have an ALS diagnosis. It doesn't matter, though, whether it's sporadic or familial. So we're not excluding people based on, where symptoms started or things like that. It's just that people have to have an ALS diagnosis. People, as I mentioned earlier, have to be within 24 months of the weakness symptom onset due to ALS. And at the time that they come in for a screening visit for this trial, their vital capacity breathing score would need to be at or above 50% of the predicted value. So when I talk about vital capacity there, you might hear that as forced vital capacity, slow vital capacity, kind of tomato for the purposes of, whether you might qualify for the trial. But that's something to keep in mind as well. And one more thing to note is that people who participate in this trial have to have the ability to safely swallow pills and liquids. And the reason for that being that one of the benefits to the platform trial design is that we're able to share the placebo groups across different regimens. And so if one regimen requires the ability to swallow pills and one regimen requires the ability to swallow liquids, all of the participants need to have that ability in order to share the placebo group data. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind, regardless of the route of administration for any of the different regimens in the platform trial. There is a really, I think, helpful, I designed it, so I'm biased. So there's an online eligibility checking tool. It's a quick anonymous survey. We don't see the results of the survey. This is just for you on your own if you want to do kind of a self-screen to see if you might qualify or fill it out on behalf of a loved one. It just goes through those kind of 5 key criteria to see at a glance if you might qualify for the platform trial. The more in-depth look at the criteria is on clinicaltrials.gov, so I put the link there. It lists out the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria in more depth. And this is just at the level of, that big umbrella master protocol for the platform trial. For each regimen in the platform trial, there could be additional criteria, kind of nitty-gritty criteria based on that drug science and mechanism of action. So that'll be my asterisk here, is that when I'm talking about these criteria, this is at that high level kind of umbrella to see if you might get qualified for the master protocol. And then the regimen specific protocol is also another consideration, but that's kind of down the road. We can go to the next slide. If you are interested in participating in the platform trial, you can reach out to me. I'll put my information in the chat. So as the patient navigator, I'm happy to help A, figure out if you might qualify for the trial, B, figure out if there's a site near you, and C, if there is a site near you, help you find out when they might be ready to start enrolling for this next regimen. So I'm happy to talk about any of those things. You don't need me to be involved in this process. You can absolutely reach out to a site on your own. And I'll just say, if you do it that way, there are a few tips to kind of make that process smoother. So when you reach out to a site, or honestly, even when you reach out to me, it can be really helpful to provide some information up front. And so if you're comfortable doing so, when you call or email a site, let them know where you live, not necessarily your home address, but letting them know the town or state where you live if you're a resident of the USA. If you live outside of the US, if you're an international person, letting the site know if you have plans to relocate for the trial, if you have family in the states that you'd plan to stay with, just letting the site know at least some idea of what the feasibility of in-person participation would be. Letting the site know where you currently receive clinical care for ALS. So Judi talked about the fact that you typically don't need to be a patient at the center where research is offered in order to enroll in research at that center, but it can be helpful. So if you are a patient at one of our platform trial sites, that's a great place to start, and they'll have access to your medical records, and it just makes the process a bit quicker and easier to kind of get the ball rolling. You could also share, if you know it, the month and approximately the month and year of weakness onset due to ALS, the predicted percent value, so talking about forced or slow vital capacity, and the date of that test, if you know it, and explaining whether you're able to swallow pills and liquids. And then just the basics of letting them know your contact information, how you prefer to be, how you prefer to communicate. Do you want a phone call? Do you want email? Is it best for them to reach out to your caregiver on your behalf? Just letting them know that information so that that first touch point gives you a really good foundation to keep that conversation about research going. And we can go to the next slide. There are, I put in the chat, somebody had mentioned another research navigator that they like using. There's a lot of resources, a lot of people who want to help. It can be really overwhelming if you haven't dipped your toe into research before and you're not sure where to start. So there's Judi Carey, who's our research access nurse at the Healey Center, but talks to anyone who needs help learning about research. Michelle Redens is also Judy's partner in crime on that front. So when you email the MGH ALS research inbox, you could get either of them. They're both wonderful resources. I'm a good resource for the platform trial. If you're interested in observational studies like All ALS, that study does have a patient navigator. I think it's becoming more common now for patient navigators to be part of the trial system to provide support to families. So just leaving this slide up in case people want to take note of who those resources are. But again, the slide will be available on our website after the fact too. And next slide. And this is, I'll just say that we are not the only webinar series that's out there. There's webinars offered through NEALS, so their website has a lot of great educational webinars that talk about a lot of interesting topics. I refer people to that a lot. I join those a lot. Les Turner also has great webinar learning series, Everything ALS. All ALS offers webinars about their observational study. And most, if not all of these webinars offered through these different groups are recorded and available online after the fact. So if there's ever a time conflict, you can usually still find the information even if you couldn't attend in person. And I think next and last slide. So if you want to keep coming back to these webinars, which I encourage you to do so, especially as we start ramping up new regimens for the platform trial, these will be a great way to stay connected. The platform trial focused webinars will be usually the fourth Thursday of every month is how we try to do it. The second Thursday of each month, we do a dedicated webinar talking about expanded access or a particular expanded access program. So for example, in February, on the 12th, the second Thursday of the month, RAPA Therapeutics will be joined by Dr. James Berry to talk about the RAPA 501 EAP. And then February 26th, it'll be kind of platform trial focused, but talking about neurofilament light chain, which is a promising biomarker in ALS, talking about how that type of analysis is incorporated into ALS research. So it'll talk about the platform trial, but it's not limited to the platform trial in its scope. So definitely stay tuned. And we'll be letting everyone know about upcoming opportunities as we share more educational resources. But and again, to everyone on this webinar, if you sign up for the ALS link, that's a great way to find out when we're going to be having regimen-specific educational webinars. So when we host webinars about a specific topic, we'll be announcing it through the ALS link, and that's a great way to stay connected. So I'll put a plug for that again. But otherwise, to those who want to join us for the February 12th EAP webinar with RAPA Therapeutics, I will see you on February 12th. Great. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.